pretty sure that there's going to be more coming in as soon as like classes begin to end or they get food or something, because sometimes they forget that we provide food for these events. So thank you very much.
Yeah, I'm not used to hearing myself on a microphone, so I would presume that everybody that should be filling these seats is most likely still in class, so we could probably expect people to start coming in throughout the event. But without further ado, I'm going to begin to introduce the panelists to you, starting with, well, my fellow executives will be coming up here to introduce them one by one as well. It's not going to be just me. But I'm going to start with Miss Elizabeth Broccoli. Raise your hand. Elizabeth Broccoli is above everything else that I'm about to mention. She is our dedicated advisor for the Law Society. By the way, I didn't even say this. I'm the treasurer of the Law Society. Although most of you probably know that, I'm sorry. She's my advisor, and she helped facilitate this event, and she helped put it together, and I want to give her a big shout out for that. But in addition to that, she also has quite a few credentials here that I'll point out. She is the Assistant Director, first and foremost, of the Center for Postgraduate Opportunities and Preparation, which has been appropriately acronymed CPOP here at John Jay College. In that role, she counsels students who are preparing for and applying to law school, graduate school, and prestigious fellowship opportunities. She also coordinates programming for CPOP. Elizabeth has been at John Jay since 2013. Prior to that, she was a staff attorney at PISCA. Am I pronouncing that right? Yes? Yep. PISCA Legal Services in Asheville, North Carolina, where she represented indigent clients in civil legal matters. Elizabeth holds a JD from Tulane University Law School, and she also holds a BA in History and Political Science from Boston University. In law school, she was the senior managing editor for the Journal of Law and Sexuality, and interned at the Innocence Project New Orleans, Southeast Louisiana Legal Services, Project SAVE, an organization that assists survivors of domestic violence and legal matters, and the Entertainment Law Legal Assistance Project, which provides free legal counsel and intellectual property matters to low-income artists in New Orleans. As you can see, clearly from what I stated, Elizabeth does have quite a background in law. However, she's also, after having practiced law and advocated for several different commendable causes, she also took the time to, after having gone through her education, gone through the rigors of law school, to work here at John Jay to advocate for us as students and prepare us for a future. So for that, please give her a round of applause. Now, I am going to call up, I'm sorry, who am I calling up? Stephanie, our secretary. She's going to introduce the next panelist to you. Again, thank you for everybody for coming out today.
Thanks, Matt. Hi, everyone. My name is Stephanie Feliciano. I'm a John Jay student here majoring in political science, minoring in psychology. So today I will be introducing our next panelist. His name is Ruben. Brandon Ruben is currently a second-year law student at Fordham Law School, where he is a Stein Scholar for Public Interest, a member of the Brandon Moore Trial Advocacy Team, and the executive note editor of the Fordham Law Review. In the summer of 2014, he worked as a legal intern in the Criminal Defense Division at the Legal Aid Society's Manhattan Trial Office. This summer, he will work as a legal intern at the Federal Defenders for the Eastern District of New York. Prior to law school, Brandon taught 4th grade in Bed-Stuy, Brooklyn, and in middle school in France. He holds a BA in English from McGill University and an MA in English and Comparative Literature from Columbia University. Thank you, Brandon, for being here today. So next up, Jordana will introduce the next panelist.
Hi again. So I'm sorry, Matt stepped out for a second. So I'm going to read the bio for Penny Stephenson. So Penny Stephenson has a bachelor's degree in psychology from Boston University, a master's in secondary education from Teachers College, Columbia University, and 20 years in the classroom teaching everyone from struggling learners and speakers of other languages to AP history, and students in the St. John's College Advantage program in both public and parochial schools, dedicated to education for social justice. Proud mom of 4 Stephensons and hundreds of current and former students, including me, and openly proud Star Wars fan. So thank you, Mrs. Stephenson, for coming out. The next person, can I have Amelia Johnson come up and read the next bio, please?
Hello. So I'll just introduce myself. My name is Amelia Johnson. I was a former student of JJAY and a former treasurer for Law Society. So I just came out here today to support. So, thank you. All right, so I will be reading the bio for Ms. Xen Sams. Okay. So Ms. Xen Sams is an actress and inspirational teacher at Embracing Artists. Xen Sams' acting and modeling career is more than impressive so far. At 16 years old and for the last 11 years, she has been one of New York's most successful models, gracing fashion and print campaigns of corporate America's elite, when at the same time she teaches free classes at Embracing Artists Foundation in New York. As a TV and movie commercial, she has also appeared in commercials for Fructis, Garnier, Nespresso, Mercedes-Benz, and BMW, that's the car I want to get, Maybelline, Buffalo jeans, Parasuco jeans, Guess jeans, Pantene Pro V, to name a few. In her spare time, she believes in giving back. She is currently involved in many different charities and organizations, one of which is Embracing Artists New York City, a company, which she founded that is dedicated to giving free weekly classes on the businesses of acting, aimed to educate aspiring models and actors on how to procure legitimate work in the entertainment industry without getting scammed. She also teaches free weekly classes at Embracing Artists. One student described it as, "The 4 hours went by so quickly, her methods of teaching are not boring like school." Another said, "I actually paid close attention to everything she said. This free class changed my life." The intensive lessons taught to aspiring actors and models trying to make it in the industry include how to market oneself effectively in the industry, how to reach clients and agents safely in a targeted manner, understanding the film, TV, movie, and modeling industry from the core, creating a budget, learning about the various methods and tools one needs to build their career, and lastly, giving them hope and faith to believe in themselves. In the last 5 years, she has been balancing her time between acting, modeling, while making a full transition to feature film actress. For the past 8 years, she has been aggressively studying to perfect her skills as an actress, working with top coaches and schools in the New York City. She studied with the famous Lara Moss, Susan Batson at Black Nexus Acting School, who has coached Nicole Kidman, Juliet, can't pronounce the last name, Tom Cruise, Jennifer Lopez, Chris Rock, Jamie Foxx, Sean Peter DeCombs, Liv Tyler, Jennifer Connelly, to name a few. To perfect her craft, she studied method and improv techniques at the Lee Strasberg Theater and Film Institute of New York under the coach of Lola Cohen, as well as many other great teachers in their intensive program. To make certain she had all aspects of the craft covered, she also studied at the Stella Adler Studio of Acting in New York City, completing a summer conservatory 2 year in a row. And let's give her a round of applause. And now, okay, 1 second. I would like to call upon Nikasi to introduce our next panelist.
Hello, I am Nikasi Lewis, student of John Jay. I double major in criminal justice and English. I will be the secretary of the Law Society Club as of fall 2015. And I'm here to introduce the guest speaker, Marcus Soler. Yes. Marcus Soler is the Deputy Executive Director for Policy and Strategic Initiatives at the New York City Civilian Complaint Review Board. He joined the CCRB in 2001. The CCRB is the largest civilian oversight agency in the United States. As DED, he oversees the preparation of qualitative and quantitative analysis, policy memoranda, monthly and semi-annual reports, and public testimony. He designs and monitors the implementation of organizational strategies and policy initiatives. During the past 12 years, he has presented his research on civilian oversight of law enforcement to domestic and international audiences. Marcos is also an adjunct professor in the Political Science Department and the Public Management Department at John Jay College. He has taught at John Jay since 2005. From 2011 to 2013, he was a visiting assistant professor in constitutionalism at the Technical University of Dresden, Germany. He is also a senior advisor to the Office of Technical Compliance Advisor monitoring the reform of Police Department of Puerto Rico for the U.S. District Court of Puerto Rico. Marcos is a graduate of the New York City Leadership Institute, which is the main organization and executive development program for the city's executive and senior managers. As part of this program, he conceptualized and developed policy initiatives concerning behavioral assessment and recidivism for the New York City Department of Juvenile Justice. Marcos served on the board of directors of the National Association of Civilian Oversight of Law Enforcement from 2009 to 2012. He was NACOLE's treasurer and chair of the Membership Development and Outreach Committee, and served on the Finance and Strategic Planning Committees. Marcos is graduate of the New School of Social Research, New York, where he studied public policy and politics. He began his undergraduate education in Europe, studying philosophy and law. He obtained graduate degrees in legal theory, constitutional law, law and society, and jurisprudence, PhD. He was a doctoral research fellow in jurisprudence at the University of Valencia Law School, Spain, and a research fellow in constitutionalism at the Spanish National Center for Constitutional and Political Studies, Madrid, Spain. Thank you. Let's welcome our guest. I will now call Matt to introduce our last speaker.
I will now introduce Abigail Padilla. Abigail Padilla is a John Jay alumni who graduated in 2012 with a degree in criminology. While Ms. Padilla was in John Jay, she was president and secretary of the Environmental Club and a peer ambassador. Ms. Padilla also worked closely with the Honorable Judge George B. Daniels of the United States District Court for 1 year and went on to intern for the Public Advocates for Bill de Blasio. Currently, Ms. Padilla is working for a foreclosure defense firm located on Wall Street, where she aids clients and creates court documents. Welcome, Ms. Padilla. welcome everybody to our first, well, not our first, sorry for that, but welcome to our career panel of 2015. Now you could applaud again. Now I would let Matt Novello come up.
I got it figured out because the names were switched. Okay, sorry about that. I'm going to introduce Professor Davidson. Professor Charles Davidson. You were supposed to move this aside. You're killing me. All right, sorry about that. Charles Davidson is the director for the Center for Advancement of Teaching at John Jay College. Brace yourselves. Prior to coming to John Jay, Dr. Davidson was an assistant professor of international law at the American University in Cairo, where he taught courses in public international law, international criminal law, transnational criminal law, and international law and development, among other courses. He has taught numerous law courses, graduate and undergraduate programs in the field of law and international relations. Concurrent with his teaching, Dr. Davidson has worked on a wide variety of law reform projects around the world, primarily in the Middle East and the former Soviet Union. He has worked with the Open Society Foundation, the Ford Foundation, USAID, USAID is how it would be spelled, and other sponsors of international rule of law programming. Most recently, he has been working as a special consultant with the American Bar Association's Rule of Law Initiative in the Middle East and North Africa. His areas of specialization are in legal education reform, human rights, and international development. A licensed attorney, Dr. Davidson was a member of the U.S. Department of Justice's Honor Program and worked with Federal Bureau of Prisons and the U.S. Attorney's Office before returning to the university to pursue an MALD and PhD in law and diplomacy and international relations. FYI, just to add this in there, if anybody in this room has any plans or aspirations of attending law school, this would be the man you would want to talk to. Thank you. Okay, sorry for the what is the word? Confusion. Trying to think of a better word than confusion, but okay. At this time, panelists are going to be giving brief information on themselves, on what they've been through. I'm going to hand it over to our moderator, though, at this point, and he's going to take it from there. He's going to be interviewing all of the panelists, gathering questions for you, and then thereafter it's going to be opened up to the floor. So, without further ado, Professor Winson. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Welcome all. This is the fourth time that I've done this, and this is going to be a little different today. Before we kind of talked about the professions that you were in, we kind of focused on your professions, and we may get to that, but I was given a list of questions by Jordana and her crew that kind of is more about career, kind of like we all have careers. Whatever the prestigious career that we have, we all had to get to where we are. We had to do stuff, we had to think, we had to work, and so we're going to talk maybe a little more general, but specifically kind of get into your experiences. So we'll talk for about I'll ask questions about 40 minutes, and try to get to everybody. I'm not going to be asking everyone the same questions, but I am going to kind of pick on you, and I try to even it out so that everyone will get an even amount of time to speak. But the first thing I wanted to ask everyone, and when I'm asking you that, I'm asking for a brief answer, a real brief answer, and that is, you are someplace now. Student, but going someplace, professional people at different levels of their profession. My question to begin with, and make this brief, is what is the biggest challenge that you had to get to where you are now? Just one challenge, and it could be, I don't know. It's like I had an automobile accident. I couldn't, go to school for a year. But what is that? So let's start with Elizabeth, and we'll walk down. We'll go down the row. And what is the one challenge where you are now, and what's the one challenge that kind of got in the way?
Hello, everyone. Thank you for those wonderful introductions, and thank you for having us this evening. And my apologies, I actually need to run out the door in about 20 minutes, but I'm in 1100 North Hall. Come chat with me. I'd love to speak with you about law school, graduate school, or fellowships. The one big challenge in my career is something that probably is not going to be applicable to everyone. But it was living in rural North Carolina. As Matt read my biography, I practiced right out of law school at Pisgah Legal Services in rural North Carolina. I was in a town of about 15,000 people. My husband and I had just come from New Orleans, where we were, we graduated law school at 23, 24, and here we were in the middle of nowhere, and it was beautiful. And I got to be in charge of a law office there right out of law school. I was meeting with community members and representing people in court, just diving right in. Honestly, my first day of my job, it was, here are a few cases, your trial's next week. I mean, that's a dream for a lot of law students and attorneys. But rural North Carolina was not my favorite place to be.
Okay, I'm gonna move on. Okay, because I'm going to. So we have a cultural. I mean, professors can talk forever, right? So you gotta keep moving. So cultural kind of struggle to kind of fit into this place you're not aware of. Xen, actress.
All right, hi
you're
guys,
in a position.
how are you? Some of you familiar faces, some of you I know, some of you I do not. Thank you for the introduction. So the most difficult thing as an actress and a currently working actress on 2 network shows in the city is that despite my education, I have a BFA with a major in theater, and I have a degree in psychology from Columbia. And despite all of my education, nobody takes an actress seriously until she's gotten to that place of you're on contract with a network or you have a major feature film under your belt. So you can study all you want, but until you get out into the workforce and actually apply everything you've learned, no one will actually, your degree is your degree, and that's great for backup, but it's the workforce that will get you to the place where everyone takes you seriously. So that was my biggest challenge.
I would say that's true about everyone. I mean, until you have position.
Yeah.
It's hard to get position.
Absolutely.
So, but once you get position, you got it.
You got it.
Penny.
There you go.
Greetings all. I would say as a teacher, my biggest obstacle in getting where I am professionally was that I had no one in my personal life like me to set a standard that I could have as a real, tangible role model. I know there are a lot of women who look like me, gender-wise, who are in my profession. When I decided to do what I did, every time you see a student who has great grades, and not for nothing, I had great grades, but everyone who mentored me said, be a doctor or a lawyer or get your MBA. Those were the 3 things that were thrown out in front of me. I decided to be a teacher sometime my freshman year in college. Half the men in my family are or have been incarcerated. I grew up in foster care, and I only had one family member by marriage who graduated from high school. So it was a little difficult as I aspired to try to figure out how to go to a better school, what a better school was, how I was going to pay for it, and how my path would look. It's difficult to do if you haven't had someone in front of you that helps you visualize that. So I think not having anyone who could tangibly show me here's the path, and having to make it myself as interesting as it has been, and serving as a role model, which is beautiful, it was very difficult to know how to do all that for someone that didn't have that.
Of course, having that kind of challenge could also give you kind of an inspiration to go even further. So, great. Brandon.
Hi, everybody, and
I think your biggest challenge was having an uncle named Alan.
That's right. I think my biggest challenge was distancing myself from this man right here. No,
we've known each other since he was nothing.
That's a joke. He.
No, it's true.
No, that wasn't a joke. My joke was distancing myself. He was actually a very good role model. My biggest challenge in the back half of my 20s, it was learning how to engage in long-term planning and learning about the value of delayed gratification. So, do I need to be texting right now? Do I need to go hang out with my friends tonight, or do I need to think about what it is I want as an adult man or an adult woman? That was the challenge and also the biggest reward. Thanks.
Right. That and eating hot dogs.
And eating hot dogs.
Yeah, right. But he's given that up. Good answer.
Sorry,
Abigail.
I'm a little short. Okay, so I would say my biggest challenge is diversifying myself from others. So you would think being a Latina, a young Latina, would give you some, I can't think of the word, but it would make you more competitive, and yet the field itself is very competitive, the legal field, for those of you who are interested in pursuing a career in the law. So diversifying myself, making myself more appealing to employers was very difficult for me, and so that's my challenge.
I'm surprised.
I am too.
You seem very attractive. Charles.
Hi, everybody. I would say in my career, the biggest challenge I face is somewhat similar to my fellow panelists. I think one of my biggest challenges was the lack of mentorship, not necessarily in a personal capacity, but in a professional and academic capacity. I didn't do a great job developing close relationships with professors throughout my college and my law school, less law school, but definitely during my college years. So I think I suffered from the lack of mentorship. So I work very hard today to sort of make sure that students do have mentorship, because I do see how it disadvantaged me as I was developing professionally.
Great, thank you. And Marcos?
I think that for me the biggest challenge was I have a very well-defined plan A as a professor in Europe, and then when for personal reasons I have to move to the United States, I realized I did not have a plan B. So I think that's a challenge a lot of people face at your age, your stage in your career, which you might know exactly what you want today, but what happens if tomorrow that doesn't pan out? What is your plan B? So I think that was...
Life happens, and it's not what you plan. And you all may be too young to know that, and maybe some are not, but things happen, and you just got to kind of go with it sometimes. All right, I need a quick answer, like 5 words. If you weren't doing what you were doing now, what would you be doing? Or what would you like to be doing? Let's start with Marcos. We'll go the other way.
I would probably be back in Europe, trying to be a professor, a full-time professor, as opposed to what I'm doing right now, which is much more exciting for me.
Okay, thank you.
I would definitely be teaching full-time, no question.
Rather than doing
administrative work.
Administrative work, right.
Similarly, I would go into education as well. I can see myself teaching.
Great.
I'd be teaching literature or philosophy.
Okay, all right.
Teaching teachers.
I'd be working for the CIA or an intelligence bureau.
An actress. Okay, I was looking for something that someone would go like way beyond what they're doing.
For the reason being that with a degree in psychology, I speak 4 languages. I've been approached by even the United Nations for translations work, and having the roles that I'm currently playing are both CIA-based roles. And so they brought me out to Langley to witness interrogations and to see how things actually happen. And I sat there the whole time, instead of doing research about the role I was there to research for, thinking to myself, wow, I would love this job, shaking people down for information. I very much had...
Flying drones, that kind of stuff.
Right, flying drones, that kind of... No, that's definitely like the short answer, CIA.
Okay, thank you. Elizabeth.
And I love what I do. Honestly, I have...
Come on, one thing you would do if you weren't doing this.
I'm going to tell you, I have my dream job here, but if I could do something crazy, I would be Anthony Bourdain. Have you all seen his show? Where he gets to go around the world and try lots of different foods. I would love to be Anthony Bourdain, maybe later in my life.
Quick, what would you do? Someone yell it out. What would you do? If you could just do anything.
I would be a ballerina.
Astronaut. Singer. Professional golfer. I have no idea how to do it, but I'd want to be one. Okay, all right. Astrophysicist. All right, I'm going back to the panel. Actually, we were going to have some. We're going to just do these, and then they're going to come and we're going to open it up to everybody. Yeah. So write your question down on the sheet there. So when you were an undergraduate, this is to Marcos, Penny, and Charles. Okay. So just the 3 of you. So listen up. Everyone else can take a little break. When you were an undergraduate, think back then, what piece of advice would you have wanted someone to give you? Does that make sense?
I think for me there are three things that I would have appreciated. One is as networking matters, and being mentor and making the right connections is extraordinarily important. And I didn't realize that back as an undergraduate, and I think I have the same problem. The second one is that academic excellence truly matters. It's where you go to school, how much you spend working hard, the difference between doing a great work, a great job, and not doing a great job, and between an A and an A minus matters, in my view. And the final thing is you have to take every opportunity then you have, and that matters as well. Then you don't just miss opportunities, and there are key moments in your life in which you realize that there are certain things that matter, and you have to grab it. You have to grab those opportunities, whether it's a research abroad, whether it's an opportunity to work with a professor, and I think those are extraordinarily important situations to think of.
Marcus, that's so insightful. Don't give up opportunities. You think life is long, it's not. It's like some things kind of like they're out there, and don't say, well, it'll be out there again. No, go for it. Go for it. Be ready and go for it. That's great. Charles?
I think in a similar vein, I think the advice that I wish that someone had told me, or that someone had shared with me at that time in my life, I think that if someone had told me that there was nothing for me to be afraid of, that I could explore what's out there without fear of what's going to happen. Where I think even at the college level, we're so concerned about what if I fail, what if it doesn't work out, and I think that thinking can really hinder us. I mean, you go try things and you see them, and if you don't like them, you try something else. I mean, it sounds sort of cavalier, but I think it's great advice. And I think the second thing that I wish that someone had told me was to really be committed more than anything else to my happiness. I think I came from a very sort of a very driven background, and I think I learned very early to put my happiness second. And I realize now I wish that someone had told me, no, put that first, and everything else comes second.
College is a place to mess up.
Exactly right.
Yeah, I mean, you've got the freedom now to mess up. You don't have to, have a career now. You're exactly. Fool around, have a good time.
Work hard, but
commit.
have fun. Right.
Commit to something.
Work hard, but have a lot of fun with it. I mean, intellectually and in other ways.
Penny.
Two things. Number one, embrace the struggle. You're in it. You've committed to it. Get knee deep in it. You're going to be broke unless you have some blessed situation that I'm not aware of. And from what I see looking around the room, you look a lot how I looked in college. You're going to be broke. While all of your friends are looking for a job that will put money in their pockets to, go to Cancun for spring break, that's wonderful. Have fun. If you can do that once, that's great. But take the unpaid internships. Volunteer to work with people who you know will be great to have in your pocket if you want to get a connect to get you something further on down the line. Don't be afraid of not getting paid. Pad your resume now. Look on LinkedIn and look at how you see other people and think about how you would like to be seen, and pad the resume that looks like that, again, even if you're not getting paid for it. And don't be afraid to take risks, again, going back to not being afraid, but don't be afraid to take risks that will pay you back with interest. The most important thing I think anyone ever told me was that successful people are willing to do things unsuccessful people aren't. The key word being aren't. They're just unwilling. It's hard to look around when your friends have new clothes and their hair is done and your nails are done, and there's going to be a lot of times that won't happen for you because you've made an investment. You're in it, stick to it, and don't be afraid of the struggle.
This is all wonderful advice. It's not always easy to take it because it seems like you can't do that stuff, but you can. I wish I knew that stuff when I was a kid, right? So listen to this. This is all good stuff. I want to talk to Marcos again, and to Xen and to Brandon, okay? And the question here is, I'd like you to think outside the box. I don't want you to think ordinary, kind of like an ordinary answer here. But when you're thinking about pushing yourself forward, you're marketing yourself, you're pushing who you are forward, you're going for an interview and you're doing that. And we're thinking outside of your training, outside of your acting training or outside of going to school, that kind of formal stuff that you go through. What experience have you had that you can go to that you can say, this is me. This is something that that I can identify myself with and I can then push myself forward with. Does that make sense? So outside of your training, what activities have you participated in, a particular activity that prepared you for your career? Maybe that says it a little better, okay? But outside of the training, so we're looking, let's go to Xen. Let's hear from Xen.
So my career has a lot of different aspects to it on a daily basis, but I like to always think outside the box, and the only reason I'm more successful than any other actress in my position is that I'm a really good business person. I know enough. I mean, I know that I don't know everything, and that's a big thing in life. And to navigate the path of any career, you have to, number one, you miss 99% of the shots that you don't take. That's a fact. Number two, when I prepared myself, I used every skill that I could think possible to what will the networks and agents and directors look and hire me versus the other person. And here are the three things that stood out. Number one, I'm a very humbled individual. I've been through a lot of different things in life, fighting cancer at 21, but I knew enough to tell myself that what's gonna make me different? Number one, I have a black belt in Taekwondo and I'm a kickboxer. So I ended up being everybody's stunt double in Hollywood. Angelina Jolie in Avengers, Angelina Jolie in Tomb Raider, Scarlett Johansson in Avengers. I did all of their work. They looked great. I was the little one behind the scenes. So my ability in martial arts that I never thought I would use in my career as an entertainer, I used on a daily basis, and that put me in front of all the right people. And eventually I started going out for leading lady parts. The languages I speak. Speaking 4 languages makes me very versatile in terms of an actress because I can pretty much do any part, go to different parts of the world, and I can do any dialect. So that's a very big thing because what you look like is only this percentage of the industry. It's 80% business and 20% talent. And that's probably a fact in almost anything you're gonna do. So thinking outside the box, the languages, my athletic skills, and me just treating everybody the way I would wanna be treated. Has nothing to do with entertainment whatsoever, but yet in the bigger picture it does.
So the talents that we have, we can use in a lot of different ways. And so don't be stuck in just being one thing. I was going to ask Marcos also, like what would you choose as something a skill that you brought to this that may not relate directly to what you do?
It's not necessarily as much a skill as something that I developed when I was in college, and I was very fortunate as a college student. I have a lot of scholarships and have a lot of support from my family and so on. But one of the things I learned was I wanted to learn how people experience the world outside academia. So what I did every summer was to do very different jobs that challenged me. For instance, so I work as a migrant worker. I just got a bag and went to work with people as a migrant worker, cleaning, harvesting fruits, gathering fruits. I have no money except just myself and what I would be able to work every day from 7 o'clock in the morning until 7 o'clock p.m. And that told me not about me, but as much as it told me about people. There were lots of folks there picking up apples, pears, people who were not as fortunate as me, but they were fighting every day. And that kind of learning about the human experience taught me 2 things. One is I care very much about equality. I care very much about the dignity of the human being, and I care about the fact that they're not going to break my back. They're not going to break my back because I have seen human suffering, and nobody has to explain it to me. So nothing is going to affect me as much as those kind of experience. The same thing, the next summer I went to a hospital just to clean toilets. I know it's kind of silly but I wanted to have the experience of being at the bottom of society to understand that kind of, again, the human experience and people who were facing every day with the possibility of death. And I was just very healthy and very fortunate. And to me, cleaning bathrooms was the best thing I could do because my suffering had nothing to do to compare with them. So I always go back to that kind of basic experiences that I have in the past that I was very fortunate during my college years to develop.
Something you can do when you're young and something that becomes very formative in your later life. Brandon.
To go back to the theme that some of the panelists have spoken about, which I also agree is extremely important and has helped me in a multitude of ways. I'm thinking right now about networking when you engage the institutions that you become a part of, and it's extremely important to draw on your prior experiences as you meet people and as you network, because a lot of the times your initial impression on someone does come in the form of a resume, but once people get beyond that, people are people, and in fact, from my experience, they want to connect on a level beyond just the professional. So for me, I like to play basketball, for instance. Some of my professors do too. And a way of advancing the relationship with them has been just talking about basketball. Now, of course, I've done well and I've worked hard, so I've substantiated the relationship in that way, but once you do that, I think it's really important to remember just to bring who you are to those relationships, because your potential mentor figures appreciate that.
And anyway, you can't network by playing golf because you don't play golf.
In New York City, you don't network by playing golf. You network by playing ball.
You do it on the courts. Right. This was a question Jordiana wanted to ask, and so I'm going to ask it. Jordiana, okay, so she's not here to ask the question. It's a bit of a loaded question, especially since the panel is here, and I just wonder if we can get a varied answer. But is a baccalaureate degree really necessary for a young person entering the work field today? Is it absolutely necessary? Do you have to have that bachelor degree, or can you live a very happy life without a BA, a BS, an MA, a PhD? What do you think? Maybe I'm asking the wrong group, but what do you think? Why don't we, let's go to Penny and Abigail.
I don't think that most people up here and most of you sitting out there will end up following a straight path from when you exited high school with an idea in your head of what you wanted to do to the end of your careers. Most of us deviate, and usually happily, because things come along and present themselves and you want to be able to avail yourself of those things. Having said that, I think that the bachelor's degree is the first step towards any option you might want to take.
All options?
All options. I have students ask me all the time, why do I need a bachelor's degree when I could be the next Bill Gates without that, or I could be the next Jay-Z without that? And my answer is always, well, there are two that you've mentioned. Could you give me the other 3 million? No. Then go get your bachelor's degree, and that's your first step towards all of your options. So I would say that having your bachelor's degree puts you in a position to go and then further your education and in any direction in which life might take you after that.
Okay. And it's not 3 million, it's 300 million. Yeah. Right. Abigail.
I agree with Penny. It's a stepping stone. I do feel that as more and more people acquire their bachelor's, the value of a bachelor's it gets less important. And so the next will be your master's, the next will be either your PhD or your law degree. But yes, it's a stepping stone.
I think it's a complex question because, with the cost of a degree going up and up and up and up these days, and how our graduates are coming out with a lot of debt, the question is there another option? And I thought that's the answer I kind of expected that from academics. Does anyone have a different answer? No.
It's complicated, but I think that's complicated.
I'm going to feel that nobody cares about your...
Nobody cares, right.
But the bottom line is that because I have 2 different degrees, I've been probably taken more seriously than a lot of the other actresses coming in, because they know that they're dealing with somebody who's fully educated on many different fronts, and I do think that seal of approval does go a very long way in any place. Even a cousin of mine who's operating her father's restaurant, she ended up getting her bachelor's, and now because of that, the banks are taking her more serious as she wants a small business loan. So it will come into effect at some point in your life. I don't think that there's a path, like Penny said, like this is how it has to go. But at some point, I don't think anybody should be viewing that kind of degree as something that that should inhibit their path. When the time is right and the funds are there and it's not a struggle, you'll complete it. And along the way of completing that degree, make sure that you're in the workforce, interning, whatever it is by all means necessary to get to that level, but I don't think it should be a distinct path, and if you take a year off to travel the world, it's the end of it. I just think that the end result should be get your education.
Great, thank you. Let's move on from the bachelor degree to the master's and doctorate degree. Many of you are going in for your PhD, not from PhD. I'm sorry, for your law degree. I assume, since that's why you're here, to kind of get into that line of effort. And I wanted to ask, and I'm particularly asking Brandon in particular, because I know that he's has made choices just recently based on this question, a couple years ago. But does the graduate school you go to, does the law school you go to, does it make any difference in the long run? Or is it just getting that upper level degree? So I'm going to start with Brandon, and I want to ask Marcos and then Abigail, if you can think about that. What about the school?
In the legal field in particular, it does make a difference. It's a lot easier to gain access to certain types of legal jobs. For example, big, large law firms on the Upper East Side that defend large corporations, where you work maybe 90 hours a week as a young associate, and you make quite a lot of money in your first year. It's difficult to get jobs at those firms if you don't go to a very highly regarded school and do well. It's not impossible, it's just more difficult. In fact, law is very rigidly hierarchical, so at the top schools, maybe 70% of the students get jobs at firms like that if they want them. And then as you go down in the rankings of law school, that number goes down too. So if you're at a school that's sort of mid-ranked, instead of 70% of the students getting jobs there, maybe 20% of the students get jobs there. That said, those are not the only type of legal jobs in the world by any stretch of the imagination. It's not the type of law that I'm going into. And so in that regard, even if you get into a law school that on the U.S. News and World Report is not ranked, number one in the country, there are a lot of interesting law jobs out there that are available to graduates from those schools, as long as when you go to that school, you do well. And I can speak to more of you about this later, but there is a certain amount of risk that going to law school entails because it is competitive. The students are ranked against one another. You have to do well to get the type of opportunities that you want, but students from generally every law school in New York who go to those law schools and do well have nice opportunities. So the reality is there are some jobs that are very difficult to get from certain schools, but that said, if you go to one of those schools, there's still plenty of other really great legal work to be had. So.
Thank you, Brandon. If we can move I wanted to hear from Charles. I said I would, but I think you have something to say about this?
Yes, I
okay.
But I can.
All right, let's go to Abigail, and then Charles, then Marcos.
Okay, well, I'll be brief. So I work as a paralegal for a defense attorney, foreclosure defense attorney on Wall Street, and he attended CUNY Law. It was affordable, and during his undergraduate years, he didn't take his grades very seriously. Now he's very successful. He has over 50 clients. They trust in him dearly, and he's very successful. He, before becoming a sole practitioner, worked as a legal aid attorney, and he worked with people who went to NYU Law, Yale, Harvard, Georgetown. So while I agree that it's not impossible, it is difficult. So again, just take your studies seriously. Make sure you network. That's very important. I was telling Matthew this. It's very important to network in this field. But yes, it is. It's difficult, but not impossible.
Okay.
I guess the only thing I would add to that is, and I think that those perspectives are absolutely true. I mean, it's for me, it's and I think this is true that as I've gotten older and sort of more sort of advanced in my career, obviously where you go to law school does matter to some degree. That is still true about law. It's less true in other fields, I think, to some degree, or it's lessening in some fields that I've worked in. But law remains very, very, very concerned about that. At the same time, I think Brandon's point is well taken. It doesn't. I'm less interested in, when the students come to see me, I'm less interested in talking about how to get into the great schools. The thing is, it's most important to go to the school that's right for you, right? It's not you can get into Harvard if you want to. I mean, right? If you do the work, you can do it. I have no doubt about any of you doing that if you want to do that. But the question really for me is not to go to the school so much because it's the school that's ranked number 4. Right? Is it the school that's right for you? Are you going to be able to succeed there? Are you going to be happy there? Are you going to feel comfortable with those, within that environment? So I think, we have to factor that into the calculus. And I think sometimes we push law students on these sort of very sort of strict numerical and GPA type things. But really the question for me is this: is it the school where you're going to be happy? You have to spend 3 very long years there. I mean, you have to spend a lot of time, and it's a very, very labor-intensive course of study. So my question would always be, is it a place that you would feel comfortable with? Which is why I think it's really great if students can go and see law schools for themselves to see if it's an environment that they really liked. I'll just say that I was accepted to a very, very, a top law school. The minute I walked into the door, I hated it. I mean, I knew it wasn't for me. I knew that I would have 3 miserable years there. It was just not for me, and I didn't go, and I never regretted that decision. So,
Marcos.
Yes. So, my experience is driven by my situation. So when I left Europe to come to the United States, I realized that people did not care about my education in Europe. They didn't care about my many degrees there and the fact that I was a professor of law school and all that. That was irrelevant. So what I learned immediately was, yes, where you go to school matters. And it matters a great deal, and that's why I joined here at a master's and a PhD. But the second thing I have learned over time is that these days, nobody asks me about my education either. They don't ask me either whether I got a PhD from the newest school or I got a PhD from Columbia University. Where they look primarily is at my experience, professional experience. So, for instance, my current work as a consultant with the Justice Department in the reform process in Puerto Rico, nobody is calling me Dr. Soler, and it's not the reason why I'm there. The reason why I'm there is the many years of his professional experience. So education is very important. It matters a great deal where you go to a school, up to a point. At certain points, you have to develop your career. Don't assume that just because you went to the right school, everything has been completed. It might get you the door, but the next step is still going to be a work in progress. It's something that you're going to have to work all your entire life.
Thank you. Great answers, and a good variety of answers there. Okay, think back. This is the last thing we're going to do, okay? And I want to get some quick answers, then if you want to talk about it, that's fine. Think back at your first important interview, right? This is the interview you take maybe before you went into law school, or the interview before you got an important job. We all have interviews in front of us. We got to present ourselves to the big guy, to the big woman, to the big person, and we've got to sell ourselves. I want one word that describes that feeling that you had when you're waiting for that interview. Maybe we'll start with Xen, because you're interviewing all the time.
All the time.
So think about before you kind of figured out how to do it, or maybe you still feel that feeling. What is the feeling? Can you do it in one word?
Excited.
Excited.
Yeah.
Penny.
Fit. I'm looking to see if they're the fit for me and I'm the fit for them.
Fit. So fit. All right. That's not really an emotion.
I cheated.
Okay. Brandon.
Desirous.
Desirous. Wanting. Okay.
I'm nervous. I'm always very nervous.
Nervous. Yeah. Nervous. Scared nervous? Excited nervous?
I would say a combination of both.
Okay. Because, I mean, nerves could be good, too.
It is.
You could be like I'm ready, I know what to say, I'm excited, I'm nervous, I want to throw up, but I want to go in there, I want to do a good job. Charles?
I was petrified.
Petrified? You're thinking about something particular.
Yeah, I know exactly. You said the first interview, the first big interview.
Can you tell us what it is? Can you tell us what that is?
I was It was a law firm interview. It was the first I had done. I had a friend who had been in the room before me, and she came out, and the way she looked was horrifying. It was awful. And she didn't even, and she's a good friend of mine, and she didn't even speak. She sort of just walked past me. I thought, this is going to be awful.
Flop sweat, just kind of like.
Exactly. The look on her face was, I thought, oh my God, why am I doing this? I'm just going to go home.
I'm done. I want to go home.
Exactly.
Mommy.
Exactly.
Marcos.
I think the word was confident that I was going to get it.
Okay, all right. So you're thinking about something in particular. And you were confident because you were prepared or because you were just...
I was confident because I was prepared for the interview and I just knew I was going to get it.
Okay, great. So having that positive image, the ball's going to go through the hoop kind of thing. Great. One more time, and this will be the last question, and then we'll open it up. I think we're going to have, you're going to kind of come out and talk to people individually. One piece of advice that you can give any of these students who are facing that interview, that important interview, tell them one thing that they should do or be aware of, or where or what? Just one piece of advice. We'll start with Marcos and we'll go the other way. You may have already given it to us.
So let's just start with not just what you wear, but most importantly, how prepared you are for the job. You have to assume that this is the only chance you're going to have in your life. That's how I approach every job interview, even whether it's true or not. And then I have done my utmost to be prepared for that interview. I have done the research about the company. I have done the research about what they want as much as I can, about the people who might interview me possibly. And I'm prepared to get it. That's where the confidence comes from, for me, personally.
Good. Thank you. Charles?
I think that's exactly it. I think I would agree 100%. I think for me, the only thing I would advise you is to be prepared, even be over-prepared to some degree. Know everything that you can know about the situation. Be as prepared as you possibly can, and I think that goes a long way in building confidence and helping you deal with the feeling of being nervous, which is perfectly natural around an interview. Yes.
I'm almost always prepared, and I'm still nervous. so not to throw them into the fire, but so that's my answer. But yes, be prepared. It helps. It's just you still might be nervous.
I would say take very good care to make sure that you are applying and speaking about the job that it is and not the job that you want it to be or that you've projected it to be. Be very, very clear about what the job is and separate that from any initial impressions or images of what you think it might be.
I would also add, in addition to all the great points that have been brought up, you're presenting yourself as a person just as much as you are presenting your qualifications. I think a lot of little things really matter. And I think the interview really starts when you walk through the lobby of the establishment where you're interviewing. I think good professionals trust their team. My husband is fortunate enough to work for one of the top 5 law firms in New York City, one of the ones you were speaking about earlier. And I know that the people who interview prospective candidates, they ask their admins, what did you think? How was this person comporting themselves when they were sitting in the waiting area? If you're rude to the small people on the way up, literally and figuratively, that's not impressive to people. I learned to make friends with the custodial staff, the cafeteria staff, and the security guards in my schools, because those are people that really run things. And you're presenting yourself as a person from the minute you walk through the door. So make sure that you yourself as a person, that you're the kind of person you would want to be working next to at that place of employment.
Sometimes those people are the most interesting people you're working with.
Absolutely.
Xen?
Well, I would agree with everything everyone just said, but the fact of the matter is that everybody judges a book by its cover. It's human nature. So like Penny said, and like everybody else on the panel said, do your research, figure out who you're interviewing with, understand what they're looking for, but beyond that, they don't just want to hire you for the resume. The resume did the job. You're already being interviewed, so that's one less thing you have to worry about. The problem when you're being interviewed is they're looking at you, every last detail of you. Are your nails clean? Is your clothing dirty? Are there coffee stains on your shirt? All of these little things will impact whether you get that job or not. Whether you're working in my industry or whether it's law or whether you're a doctor, everybody is going to judge you. It's your job after they've had their first 30 seconds of impression to really walk out that door with the impression you want to leave. So if you are only focusing on your studies and only focusing on your resume to be impressive, it's actually not going to work. Community work helps because that really pays tribute to the type of person you are. Understanding, what your life is outside of the job. So if you're going to come off as somebody who's completely, workaholic and you're going to really sell yourself to the point where I'll be here morning and night, that's not necessarily what they want to hear. They want to know that there's a balance in your life, because anybody who's a balanced individual will be a balanced employee, and that goes for everything across the board. So it has a lot to do with the preparation of where your state of mind is. Leave your baggage at the door. That's the bottom line.
Thank you, panel. That was wonderful. This panel has been recorded. It will be on Radio 568 later tonight. I'll upload it. Go to www.radio568.com, and you'll be able to hear this panel. I believe now I'm going to hand this over to Jordiana. I think what you're going to do is you're going to come out and we're going to have small little talks around the tables here with individuals. So thank you all. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.